actually has some of the blue coming out.
I know.
And that color is the black and
This
storm
is
blue?
the same color that's
Okay.
underneath the scrolls. And there's a little blue. This space had a little bit more than what was on the sample. In other words, if I did exactly what was on there, then there'd be a gap, it would,
Mine looks exactly like this.
You and me both, Mary.
I used to like you,
Yeah. We're not staying with you next year.
Mary. Now she Rosemaling, so we're just gonna have to leave her behind.
When you're doing that, are you looking for where you're going, like how far ahead?
when I look at the stroke, or the place, and I think, okay, what would look good there? And so when I start, I kind of know what I'm going to do in my mind. Almost like when you're playing pool a little bit, you know, how they say ahead of time what they're going to do. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
That should be a little red
I'd call my shots, but
But see, the
my hand
problem is
doesn't
here,
listen
now
to it.
this one is a little bit closer than what's on the sample, so really, there's no more room. So I have to leave it out.
And on most of your flowers, one side is
That's
higher than the
I'm
other?
gonna actually, that's not,
So they're not balanced? They're-
Correct.
Right, that's the beauty of those.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what makes it what
It's
it
the
is.
beauty
but
of this particular type of Rosemaling,
That's
is
what I
that
would
it's
say.
asymmetrical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I'll put a little, some teardrops.
Mine should be full of teardrops. This freaking didn't work.
Then there's a supporting stroke underneath.
You've done this a few times before.
Yeah, line work is important with Rosemaling.
Didn't you start doing this when you were like 10?
I would always see my aunt's Rosemaling when I was very young, so I think I was just so used to seeing it.
It's like the same with the Russian stuff. It's you practice, you practice, you
Yeah.
practice. I have a Russian piece working all the time.
Yeah.
Just
Want to finish mine?
What's his name?
Yeah.
Raoul!
I would never go into that Russian stuff.
It's not easy,
God.
and there are days when I have really bad paint days, but
It's
I
so
just
involved.
love it.
So many shades.
yeah, there's no spaces.
It's gorgeous,
It is, but it's very involved.
but I,
Is that a low Cornell brush? This is low Cornell, sorry, number 1. It's the 7050 script. And usually when I load the brush, I put plenty of paint on there, and then I twirl the end of it so it's pointy. So it's thick, full of paint, but a very pointy tip. It seems that whenever I do this, I can't just leave it be, because look at how blunt.
It's globby.
Yeah, then
See
it's
that?
blobby.
Right,
Yeah.
it is globby. And so I'll point the tip. I always, and it's just a force of habit, like dip it in the paint, twirl the end, dip it, twirl it. One of the Rosemellers said, when I dip it, I tip it on here like this, so it uses
Yeah.
up the very tip. But you know what, that takes time. It's easy just to twirl the end,
We don't
and you
have
have
a
a
lot.
more pointy tip. It's better
Yeah.
to twirl.
Uh-huh.
Probe twirl. And this, when you start at the center, you have a kind of a teardrop. And like that. And we'll jump it up. There's the red.
My girlfriend's mom took lessons at Westerheim, and she'd make the daughter go with.
Oh, my
Her-
daughter would rather die.
That's how she felt to me. She said her mom would come home, and all she would have is just sheets and sheets and sheets of strokes. And she'd be trying to show the husband and the daughter these beautiful strokes, and they'd just be looking at it. That's all you did today. Like, where's the painted piece?
It's kind of like when I go to a beading class, I'm there for 4 hours and I got a thing that's about this big.
Yeah.
Oh, gee.
But they would go all the way to Cora. They'd stay out there all week, and she'd come home with pieces of paper.
And I've tried to paint this slow so you can see what I'm doing rather than whipping it through and getting it done.
He would take carving classes, and at least he'd have something.
Yeah, right.
When
You
he's
have something
getting,
to show.
yeah.
Trying to paint it like the sample. It's so easy to paint it different. Just do
You
something.
can add your own little touch to it.
They use different sheep and I walk the dogs and I have booster.
This one, yeah.
Quit walking the dog.
Port stroke.
You won't get a blister.
She loves it. And it's good for them.
It is.
I don't have a problem.
To start out there, I'd like to tip it in a tiny bit of blue, so that when I start it here, it doesn't look so. Always smooth it over, that's okay.
Really pops that out, too, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Line work. Yeah.
And see how it covers up all her mistakes?
Yeah.
That's right.
It'll cover up my mistakes, too.
But if you look at these, like this, these strokes, because it's on this
It's on paper, yeah.
Yes, and
It's
the other-
still-
and it looks really good once the
Yeah,
line works in.
right.
Of course, if
Yeah.
you don't do good line work, then you're toast.
Yep.
I'm a breakfast.
You like your toast.
You know, look at the difference. That was the start. Yeah, look how. Then once you do that,
If you want it more blunt, you can, after you load up your brush, you can start it here and then end it there.
Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Safe travels back to Mundelein.
It's almost like BJ's floating, you know? She just goes on and on, the same bird.
And it looks perfect.
Yeah.
And no matter what I do, it doesn't.
I can't. It's floating is horrible.
I know.
Maybe,
Oh, yeah.
maybe it won't be correct,
like to
but
find some
but if
kind of
if you like it, right?
Me too.
the
whole
Still
drop
working
of
at it.
Lace, I am,
You are
Yes,
outstanding
you've
at
done
lace.
that,
I did that,
Arlene
I did
Yeah.
Arlene
This
Litton
and
stuff.
trays you're talking
Yeah.
about? Those
I love
flower
that.
trays, yeah.
that.
What do they call it?
That was just fun to do,
Was
too.
it?
Yeah,
See?
I
Yeah.
would've-
I'm going
I
to add
would've
more
thought
black
that.
to this
Exactly.
than that one. This particular one just, I think, dictates it.
I did 4 lace pieces.
Wow.
I know, who would've thought?
Wow, that's good.
One was a set of
done a
coasters,
couple.
one was a set of coasters.
Yeah. Didn't you bring them to the Christmas party last year?
I think I did.
Yeah.
Now, after you do the line work, the next thing would be the palette.
See, I like that. That's so pretty.
You might
Oh,
wanna do
yeah,
the
the
palette,
painters.
Yeah,
palette
what would
before
be
you
the
do the
middle
line work
value
down
of
here.
that palette?
What color are you doing the palette in? The raw umber?
Could be in the raw sienna. That would be a good color since it ties
and
it
then
in.
just
It looks like
float
it's all
it?
shaded in
You-
here,
And then
too.
shade it in
Yeah,
with
you
some of the
shade.
burnt umber
Okay.
or some raw umber, just a dark value like that.
Yeah.
And then the top, I think, is a mix of probably the unbleached titanium. They're all variations of the colors that we're using.
Okay.
There's nothing different about it.
And then the glaze, do you just take the latte and stroke it on there, or do you do something special with
The
that?
latte, probably 1 part latte, the other part of a floating medium,
Okay.
and then add maybe an 1/8 to a 1/4 part, feel it out, of the liquid extender.
Okay. And then just brush it on the way you
And
want.
what you can do is you can even take the liquid extender or the floating medium, either one, on a Scott towel and dab it all over your surface.
Okay.
So it's all shiny and wet, not drippy wet, but just moist. And then take the glaze with the brush.
And can you go right over what you've painted?
You can't go over this.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, you'd want to,
Yeah.
probably want to,
Yeah, don't do it right now.
you'd probably want to put a clear coat over this.
No, go
Okay.
glazing
Protect
medium.
it.
Just put a
Yeah.
glazing medium
Yeah,
on it, and then
okay.
you can do it.
And
Yeah.
then wet it, moist it a little bit, and then do the glaze. And you can always dab it in here.
Okay. Like you said, you could use
And
the
then fade
saran
it
wrap.
out.
You know, you could use the saran wrap kind of technique
Yeah,
too.
you can do that.
And that way you have a little more
can always
control.
Go over
1 coat of
this,
varnish on
like that,
And so
to remove some of it here, so you don't have any lined effect or nothing.
Anytime you want to
Work
protect
it
something
out.
you've already painted, just put glazing medium,
Okay.
and then you don't kill it.
And then what will take off the lines you said?
Just
The
a regular brush.
oh, the regular.
Yeah,
Okay.
just a dry brush,
just
just
smooth
brush
over,
off the,
exactly.
Oh yeah. Okay.
yeah, what you don't want.
And you can always dip your brush. Let's say you protect it, you put the glazing medium. Then you moisten it a little bit. Then you go over it with one of those brushes.
Yeah.
Or do whatever process
Yeah.
you're going to do. What you can do is have a little bit of a larger brush like this. This is a number 10.
Yeah.
And dip it in crud cutter. Not so it's wet, but moist in crud cutter.
What is crud cutter?
It'll remove the glaze.
Oh, okay.
Practice sheets.
And then you can remove what glaze you don't want on here.
I see.
Normally what you do is you'd put the faux treatment and then do your decorative painting over it. But the thing is, in the class, by the time we do the glazing, it won't be dry to put the design on it.
Yeah.
So just for class purposes is the reason why we did it this way, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't have to put too much line work on this. I don't think it needs it.
Yeah, yours don't need it. Ours is gonna be lots of it.
Yeah. I love those liner brushes. With those big long ones.
I ordered some new ones too, because mine get so crappy after a while, you know.
Yeah. I picked up some at Hoop last year from Sharp. Nice liner brush. I love it. Are you going to Hoop this year? No?